At some point, the madness got to stop, man. I'm John Brown. This is the John Browner Podcast. What's going on? What's popping, y'all? What is popping? As always, if you want to be a part of the show, all you got to do is head over to gmail.com and do John Browner Podcast at gmail.com. That will get you on this show. That'll get you conversating. Or if you want to send some long form to tell me about something and I said that you didn't like, which a lot of people uh, tend to use the email section for, feel free to go ahead and do that. Outside of that, we are always on our way to somewhere. Right now, we're on our road to 500. We were on a march to 300. Now we're on the road to 500. We'll get there eventually, baby. We're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep posting and commenting and tweeting and Instagramming. But we're going to get there. We're going to get to 500, y'all. But we can't get to 500 without y'all. So like the show, subscribe to the show, share the show, do all that, because part of this has been the help with the growth of the show through the Sporting Tribune. So if you're on the Sporting Tribune, retweet it, like it, share it. If you're on my page, the John Browner Podcast on X, like it, share it. The show is brought to you on Facebook. The show is brought to you on YouTube, Twitch, X, and Kick. So the show's in a lot of places. And so to grow the show, I figured I had to put it in a bunch of places. And so far, so good, man. I can't complain. The show's showing some real life out there on the internet, which can be weird at times and odd because of the way people say things to you. Shout out to the chat pack, man. Shout out to the chat pack. For those of you who don't know, who new to the show, the chat pack is the people who come into the comment sections and they chitty chat. There's a pack of them and they chitty chat. Shout out to Tito for coming up with the name. On the show today, we're talking about the Cowboys because I'm forced to talk about the Cowboys every year. I'm joking, but I talk about them once a year during the offseason because I believe everything else is just smoke and mirrors. So I'm going to do that today at some point. Rich Paul is still going. The Rich Paul Marathon continues. You can find a story of something Rich Paul said every day since the NBA offseason has begun. Rich Paul has done it again. And so I'm going to dive into that because Rich Paul has to be stopped. But before I get into that, man, I want to talk about something. If you have been watching the San Diego Padres, you clearly know right now, it's another day, it's another loss. Period. You as a fan, as a person who is rooting for them, as a person who wants to see them win. Right now, it is another day, another loss. And this is getting tough, man. This is really getting tough. So let's let's start here. Let's start here, okay? Because the best place to start is in the beginning. The Padres lose in a pattern. I'm going to break this pattern down to you because I want you to know what I'm seeing and where this frustration is coming from. Because it's not just the losses; it's the pattern in which the losses occur. At some point during a 3 or 4 game series, because they're all 3 or 4 game series, the following score will happen, not in the Padres' favor. They will lose a somewhat high scoring game, whether it be 7-6, 8-7, 9-7. They'll lose a high scoring game. They'll then have their bats disappear. They'll lose some low scoring game. Let's call it 6-1. And then at some point, there will be some offensive outbreak, and they'll win double digits to low single digits. Again, let me repeat that. The pattern for the Padres this year has been a high scoring loss, a loss where the offense doesn't show up, and then a loss where the offense overcompensates for not showing up and then losing a close game. That's literally been the Padres beat. That's literally been the way this thing has gone, game after game after game after game. And it's predictable at this point. It's predictable. Yesterday, the low scoring loss happened. The Padres lost to the Braves yesterday 3-2. Now, again, none of this is the story. I have to give I think it was Manny Machado hit his 200th home run or something like that. So shout out to him, you know. But buddy, I saw something else today. That I don't know if you're a Padre fan, I don't know how you feel about this. So I'm going to read this to you. The headline is July 21st update. That's today, as of 7 a.m. Eastern Time, ranking the 2026 MLB trade deadline candidates. Obviously, Tariq Schoolboy has been talked about a lot. Byron Buxton has been talked about very little. Same for Joe Ryan. Mason Miller. It is reported that Mason Miller has a 40%, I don't know how they put the 40% to it, but a 40% chance of being moved. He's got 3 more years left on his contract after 2026, after this season. So he's a controllable asset. And there's conversations amongst baseball people that Miller there's a 40% chance, according to Ken Passan, that he may be moved. Look, man, Jeff Passan, not Ken Passan, I'm sorry. Jeff Passan. There's a 40% chance, according to Jeff Passan, that he may be moved. They've got the best fits for it. The Yankees, the Mariners, the Phillies, the Braves, the Pirates, and the Rays. You can take the Rays out. You can take the Pirates out. The Brewers maybe. The Phillies maybe. I don't see the Mariners doing this. I can see the Yankees doing this. Here, the reason why, by the way, CJ Abrams is also on this list. So the reason why this Mason Miller possible move has me scratching my head. And by the way, what to do, Biggie? The reason why this has me scratching my head is because if you're going to do that, okay, all right, but you better attach one of these big fat contracts to it. And this is so when I tell you there are certain guys who are out. If you're going to trade Mason Miller, the Rays are out, the Pirates are out, the Brewers are out. I think the Mariners are out as well. But if you're going to trade Mason Miller, this is a salary dump. The only way this can be seen as a positive move for the organization is if you trade Mason Miller with Xander Bogaerts or Manny Machado. Do I sound crazy to you? Does this sound crazy to you? Because even in the article, it says less than a year after giving up one of the top prospects in baseball, shortstop Louis DeFries, to acquire Miller, the Padres are considering moving him. They would love to attach Xander Bogaerts' erroneous contract to any trade, but that would severely limit their return, and frankly, nobody's going to take it. That leaves the Padres in a position to dangle the best reliever in baseball and see what kind of bites they get. There will be plenty. Miller is a true game changer, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. If you're going to trade Mason Miller and you don't attach the Xander trade, the Xander contract, or if you don't attach the Manny contract, what are you doing? I mean, that's my question first and foremost. If you do not attach those contracts and you're trading Mason Miller for prospects, what's the point of that? What genuinely would be the point of trading Mason Miller for more prospects? so you can trade and get another Mason Miller. These contracts were going to be a problem the day they signed him, and everyone knew that. This was a Peter Seidler, I'm going for it situation. They went for it, and going for it seems to have failed. I think it is safe to now say the experiment of the San Diego Padres in its current iteration as a championship contender, that window may be closing rapidly. And because that window is, we are finding ourselves watching this team now have their best player. Well, Tatis is their best everyday player. Mason Miller is their best pitcher. The conversation, the Ass Island graphics are coming. Trust me, because it's going to have a lot of inhabitants. So the idea that you're going to move Mason Miller and not move one of these massive contracts. I keep hearing reports about the new ownership and how I think I saw somebody sent me something, said, oh, it's reported that they hate the Dodgers. If you are going to trade Mason Miller, yeah, Ass Island's going to be, we're going to have we're going to have an affordable living situation on Ass Island at the rate we're going. The idea that you can have Mason Miller be moved for prospects, at that point, I'm going to start joining the fire AJ Preller people. You can't trade Mason Miller. You cannot, you absolutely 100% cannot trade Mason Miller. Because at some point you're going to need a Mason Miller. You have him under control for 3 more years. That's 3 more trade deadlines. That's 3 more off seasons. That's 3 more winter meetings. If you cannot get somebody to take one of these $300 million bloated contracts, then no. Then the answer is no. And this is why I'm telling you, there are only 2 teams really viable in this. The Yankees, because the Yankees can stomach that contract. The Phillies can stomach that contract. I don't know if the Mariners can. And if you're the Mariners, or if you're the Phillies, or if you're the Yankees, I wouldn't want Xander Bogaerts. I would ask for Manny Machado. Because to me, one of them, because of the cost, one of them has to go. The production is too low for both of these guys. For the amount of money you're paying both of them, one of them has to go. And if Mason Miller has to be attached for that other guy to go, I don't like it, but I can stomach it. I don't want to hear about trading Mason Miller if it's just for prospects. That's not a conversation I want to have. When you traded for Juan Soto, you gave up a ton of prospects. Juan Soto is not on this team. If the Padres are going to become one of these teams that you empty out your farm system for a guy just to trade that guy for somebody else's farm system, you're just exchanging trash. You're just exchanging trash, man. You really are. I don't know how accurate this situation is that Ken Passan, or I keep calling him Ken Passan, Jeff Passan is going through. I mean, again, they've got 100 guys on this list. They've got 100 guys on this list. Luis Arraez is on this list with a 95% chance of being traded. Francisco Lindor is on this list. Like, there are people on this list, and the Red Sox have multiple guys on this list, and the Red Sox have won like 12 or 15 games in a row. So the fact that Mason Miller is even being discussed as being available is a problem. That lets me know that internally, if it has gotten out to the point where there's a quote unquote 40% chance that Mason Miller is even available. We now know internally, they know that this season is a wash. And if you're trying to move Mason Miller at the cost of attaching Xander Bogaerts or Manny Machado to the Mason Miller deal, that A, limits the teams who can take him, and B, that absolutely tells you that this team is in a completely different territory than the one we started the season in. If that is a conversation that also gives me insight on what the new owners are expecting to get, how the new owners are expecting to operate. You can have every story written about you about how you want to do this and how you want to do that. I'm going to watch the actions of the organization with the speculation of the new ownership taking place later this summer. Because, by the way, that still hasn't been voted on. That still hasn't gone through. I don't know why it takes this long. I really don't. The NBA was for sale. The Portland Trailblazers were for sale. The guy bought it and already in there, changing light bulbs. So, we need to really have a conversation about this. Like, I understand. I completely understand why, if you are the Giants, because again, I can go down this list. I can understand why you would like to move Tariq Skubal. He is only for the remainder of the year. He's going to be the highest paid pitcher in baseball. Byron Buxton being a 10% chance, I won't worry about him. Joe Ryan, 35% chance. He's got one more year left on his deal. And here's the you want to hear something really funny? If the Padres are to move someone, tell me why. For Byron Buxton, the second highest rated person possibly traded, they have best fits. Buckle your seatbelt. Phillies, Padres. So in the same article, the Padres are sellers and buyers. So look, man, I don't really know how much validity you can put into this. But again, I'm not in the business of trading the best closer in baseball unless I can get off one of those contracts if that's what the owner is recommending. If that's what the new owner is out there looking to do, then so be it. They own the team now. If you've got to go back to managing the team at a more respectable budget, okay, I accept it. But the idea that you have to now do that with Xander Bogaerts on the team or with Manny Machado still on the team, because again, I think Manny can bounce back next year. I think Manny can end this year in a very good space. We've never gotten a season from Xander Bogaerts that would justify that contract. So if you are forced to eat half of it to get rid of it, then that's probably will be the guy. I mean, if we're having a real conversation about it, that's the direction I think it's probably going to go. To get rid of this Xander contract, you're going to have to eat some of it. And of the two, I would rather keep Manny around because Manny has shown himself. He's shown his value over time. Xander has never shown his value, period. For what he has paid, he has not, in clutch situations and in playoff scenarios, he's not come up with anything clutch for you. He is clearly, his best years are behind him. And that, of all the contracts that they have, that's the one they need to figure out a way to get from under ASAP. If I'm the new owners, this is the one. This is the part of the house that we have to demolish. This is the Xander Bogaerts is the portion of the beach house we just bought. We've got to redo the deck. We may go high end if we get lucky, but it's more than likely we're going to go low end. We're going to do this. We're going to go to Lowe's and we're going to get the parts. We're going to fix this ourselves. Because if Mason Miller is available, that is a extremely bright red flare shot into the sky in the dead of night about what this organization now believes their outcome for this year will be. I that's a tough thing, man. That's a tough vibe, bro. That's a tough vibe. It really is. If they lose Mason Miller, man, I mean, that's the only reason to stick around after, let's say, the seventh inning of a Padres game. If you're at home or if you're watching, and they somehow get the lead, that's the only reason to stick around. So you get to see Mason Miller throw flames at the end of the game. That's the only reason you stick around the Padres game, because you want to beat the traffic. If you're in downtown San Diego, you want to beat the traffic. I came, I saw the team's not really going anywhere. My kid enjoyed the game. I had a couple of drinks. I enjoyed the game with some buddies. Either let's hit the gas lamp or let's get out of here before everybody else gets out of here. Let's beat the traffic. Because if not, if Mason Miller's not there to close the game at the end of the night, what am I sitting around for? Either they'll win or they'll lose, whatever. They were winning when I left. You know how many baseball games I've said that to them? Well, they won because they were winning when I left. Got to beat this traffic. Got to beat this traffic. Tito, they got him for 3 more years, man. They got Mason Miller under contract for 3 more years after this. And if you're talking about attaching one of these contracts to it, the longer this waits, the harder this will be. The longer you have to wait to get rid of these contracts, the harder it will be, because every day another strikeout gets added to the age of these contracts. These are not 25, 26, 27-year-old guys who have just struggled in a couple of years and they get to another organization, they get fresh air in another city, and then all of a sudden, they might come to life for you, so it's worth the risk. Trading for Manny Machado at this point is not worth the risk. Trading for Xander Bogaerts is absolutely not the risk. You lost this contract. You lost out in this situation. You just got to eat it as an organization. And it's not my money. But you got to eat. You got to find a way to eat that. Because the more you keep them around, that question is always going to keep coming up. It just is. And the Padres, again, another day, another loss. They lose in patterns. Pattern A, it's a high-scoring game, but they come up a run or two short, 9-7. It's a low-scoring game on their end. The other team gets 4, 5, 6 runs. They get 1 or 2. And then at some point during the 3 or 4 game series, there's an offensive outburst where they score double-digit runs, and then the other team scores low because it's a travel day, and somebody got to go to a different city. That's the way the game. That's the way most of these games have gone. This is a great question. David P says, if there's no salary cap, why is there so much crying about these bloated contracts? Because they still owe that money. And to me, this will take us in a different direction, and I talk about this in bits and pieces, but this is why a salary cap is coming. This is why you're going to lose baseball next year, because the salary cap 100% is coming. So, David, the salaries that they pay cut into the profit that the ownership makes, because the Padres are making money. You can tell that by the sellouts. They've got I think their attendance is still top 5 in the league. I can double check that before the show's over, but I think their attendance is still top 5 in the league. So all that money pouring in, I think they're going to do double multi-million fans cross the threshold this year. And because they're going to do that, that's money in their pocket. But every year, you've got a guy making 25, 26, $30 million, and he's not producing. That's coming out of your pocket. And so the fact that there is no cap means there is no penalty per se. But at the same time, the penalty is to all the people who have to get on that money call at the end of the year and go, all right, man, we need, another 30 million kicked in so we can pay out all this by the end of the year and have our book be good going into next year. That's what the fuss is about. That's literally what the fuss is about. So to me, as I watch this, man, another day, another loss. And I'm supposed to care about David P follows that question up by saying, and I'm supposed to care about the profit the team makes. No. Well, you know what? Yes. Yes, you should. Okay. Because that's a very good, let me put that back up. Because that's a very interesting. So David P has the classic, fan argument. And he's right. Why should the fan care about how much money the team loses? I will put this in very kitchen table economics. At some point, you can shop at Vons. But if you are shopping at Vons and you're not getting the proper amount of bang for your buck, what difference does it make if you start going to Food for Less? You're a Target shopper, but your dollar ain't stretching like it used to. I'm going to go ahead and start stopping at Walmart. You see, so I'm not saying that you should care how much money they're losing, but how much money they're losing will absolutely impact you as a fan when they start blowing the bottom from under the team. And then you look around, and then this becomes the try-hard Padres. This becomes the Padres where the Padres look like the A's. And it's just a bunch of, Luis DeFreeze is out there. And every time Luis DeFreeze gets up for contract, you got to trade him for more prospects. You get yourself back in that turnstile. So it matters. So it absolutely matters. You should care. You should care to a certain extent because it's their responsibility to put a winning product on the field. But as an ownership group, it's also at the end of the day, you want to make profit. You want to make money. They all make money, but everybody who makes money wants to make more money. So would they like to win? I guarantee you they would like to win. Again, the new ownership group, we don't know much about them. And so we have to hold reservation about our opinion because we don't know. But it'll tell soon. It'll tell soon, man. Biggie says, this is why certain teams never win like the Pirates, Padres, Rockies, etc., because they always trade their best players for valuable prospects that never work out, and if they do, they trade them too. Facts. 100%. If there was a comment of the day, I would give it to you, Biggie, because you nailed it. You nailed it. Paul Skeens will not finish his career with the Pirates. I don't know who's on the Rockies to justify an equal level of, conversation about that person, but Paul Skeens will not finish his career with the Pirates because when it comes time to pay him, they're not going to do it. And he is the most marketable player outside of Ohtani in baseball, and they're not going to pay him. Can you imagine the star level power that Paul Skeens would have in a Dodgers uniform? Can you imagine the star power that Paul Skeens would have in a Yankees uniform or Braves uniform or Mets uniform? Probably not the Mets, but Phillies. So to me, which one are you? Because there's no middle ground. You're the Rays and you pop up every other year as a competitor because all your young players all get good at the same time, and then you trade all of them. Are you the Royals at one time where the Royals were making a run every 4 or 5 years? Or are you you the Cardinals when you're a steady organization? You keep your payroll low, but you pay some guys, but you keep your payroll manageable. Like if the Padres were ran like the Cardinals, you wouldn't have signed Bogarts. You would have had your one big guy in Manny, and then everybody else around that is a farm piece that you've pretty much grown yourself. You've grown your own fruit, and in addition to growing your own fruit, you now have a couple of players that you pay really early, like your Tatis and your Merrill, and that's your team. You have one big time player there, and Nolan Arenado, and then everybody else is a paid early guy. So that's one or two guys. And then everybody else, your farm system, in and out. Bang, 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 bang. You bring in a couple, top tier pros, guys who know baseball and good in the locker room, good team or good organizational guys. And then that's it. So that's all. Period. Period, man. Well, now, Biggie, we're not going to talk about the tax code. Rich people never lose in this country. Once you hit a certain amount of money that you make, the tax code prevents you from ever going broke. But that's a different conversation for a different show. That's a CNBC show. Smirks says Padres would have been stacked if they didn't trade Soto. Man, listen, they didn't have it in the wallet. We ain't even finna get into that. They didn't even. Yes, David P. They did trade for Tatis. They traded James Shields, if I remember correctly. They traded James Shields to the White Sox because the White Sox were in a division race, and they got Tatis for David Shields. I think David Shields is his name, but that's how they got Tatis. So it works out in your favor, but you got to have the scouting the eyes for that. Now let's move on to something else. Once a year, I do a Cowboy story. Once a year in the offseason, I do a Cowboy story because apparently they're America's team somehow. Thanks for that, Jerry Jones. And this is the one story I do during the offseason about the Cowboys. If you really think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl this year, this is your segment. So the Cowboys have Dak Prescott, who, not my cup of tea, but a very good professional quarterback. If you put Dak Prescott with good players, Dak Prescott will give you numbers. If you don't believe me, see last year. They figure out a way to, as of now, to get Pickens to behave. Pickens has come in. Pickens has signed the offer sheet. Jerry Jones had an issue with David Amalagetta, whatever his name is. This is the same agent that the guy who he argued with last year, who ended up on the Green Bay Packers. So they get Pickens in, Pickens is signed. So now you have one of the best wide receiver tandems in football, arguably the best. You can argue that they're up there with Cincinnati. You can argue that they're up there with the Rams. So because that group is a very small group of people. We're going to do wide receiver. We're going to do best by group, top 5 groups. We got 50 days till the season starts. So we're going to start getting into some of that soon too. So, but you got one of the top 2 duos at wide receiver. You have a questionable run game still. Your offensive line has gotten better. You've made some good choices there, and you got guys coming back healthy. So I like their offensive line is better than average. Your quarterback is a good professional quarterback. Not top 5, but can compete with the top 5 on any given Sunday, which is all you want as an organization. In addition to that, your defense, which was the worst defense in football last year, I don't care. You can't change the defense overnight. They made some good moves during the season by getting some guys in there who Kenny Clark and people of that ilk. You got Caleb Downs in the draft. I don't think their defense is going to be leaps and bounds better. Dak Prescott said every year the Cowboys don't win the Super Bowl, the year is a failure. He said that yesterday, I think. That's every team in the NFL, buddy. I've never fallen for the Cowboy hype. I've never been a guy to follow Jerry Jones and his news clippings. I've never been the person who would see something the Cowboys do and overreact because I don't think the Cowboys are a well-run organization. I think the Cowboys are the Jets with more wins. I think the owner meddles. I think the quarterback is the Cowboy quarterback is set for life. If you're good, Troy Aikman, who actually won Super Bowls, set for life. Tony Romo, who did absolutely nothing. And Tony Romo did absolutely nothing. Set for life with CBS announcing games. Jason Witten, set for life post-Cowboy career, announcing games. Michael Irvin, everyone on your television, wild out of his mind, but I love Michael Irvin. He's one of my favorite people on television. Like, if Dez Bryant could have behaved, Dez Bryant and Michael Irvin would be doing a podcast together if Dez Bryant could behave. So, again, this is my one segment in the offseason that I give you. I don't think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think the Cowboys are going to win that division. As bad as I think the Eagles are letting go of A.J. Brown, I still think the Eagles are better than the Cowboys. That's just what I think. That's just what I think. And for whatever reason, the entire NFL media pumps the Cowboys every year, every offseason. Same bullshit. Every year, every offseason. This is the year. Oh, this is the year. All they need for you to say this is the year is a consistent quarterback. Because when they had Quincy Carter, I never had to hear this shit. Bro, when they had Quincy Carter on their team, and I know some of y'all don't remember Quincy Carter, so that's a blast from the past. I never had to listen to the Cowboys say they were Super Bowl contenders. Never. But when they got Tony Romo and he was respectable, now I got to listen to this shit ever since Tony Romo, dog. And it just rolled over because Dak is actually good. And because Dak is actually good, now I got to listen to this shit all over again. Every year they fail. Every year they hire a fucking yes man coach. Every year they gut the defense. Every year they get some high price wide receiver. Every year they ignore the running game. Every year their offensive line gets hurt. I got to listen to this again in the offseason. Cowboys to the Super Bowl. Cool, bro. Beat the Eagles first. That's my barometer. That's my barometer for the Cowboys every year. Beat the Eagles first. When you beat the Eagles first, then I can have a conversation with you. Because let me go to the schedule. Let me see. Because if the let me see. Let me go. No, I'm gonna go directly to the Dallas Cowboys. So they play the Eagles on what's this? September, October the 26th. It's Monday night on ESPN. Until then, I don't want to talk about the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. I don't want to have any conversations about it until they beat the Eagles on that particular day. Because their first 4 games, the first 5 games before that, they should beat the Giants. They should beat the Commanders. They probably won't beat the Ravens. They probably won't beat the Texans. So now you're 2-2 already. They got an Amazon Prime game against the Bucs, who they should beat. So they'll roll into that. Oh, whoa. I'm skipping one. And the Packers. And the Packers kick their ass every year when it counts. So now you're looking at the first 6 games of the season, they might be rolling into Philadelphia 3-3. Beat them first, bro. Beat them first. Before I have a conversation about a serious conversation about the Cowboys, beat the Eagles first. And you got a good warm-up for your season. You should beat the Giants. You should beat the Commanders. That Ravens game is going to be awesome. That Texans game is going to be awesome. You should beat the Bucs, and the Packers always kick your ass. So do that first. Do that first, and then I would love to talk about the Cowboys being a Super Bowl contender. I have the same meter for the Bears. Beat the Lions or beat the Packers, and then I'll talk about the Bears winning the Super Bowl. If you haven't been there in 20 plus years, you have to beat a team that's been there in the last 20 years for me to have an honest conversation about you going to the Super Bowl. I do the same thing for the Chargers. Beat Kansas City and we can talk about it. I have the same conversation with the Raiders. Beat Kansas City and then beat Denver and we can talk about it. Beat two teams in a division that have been consistent playoff contenders. Beat them, and then we can talk about it. The Chargers have at least made the playoffs, but they haven't consistently beaten the Chiefs. Beat the Chiefs, and we can talk about it. I don't want to have these conversations until then. I really don't. Because I don't like the Cowboys. But I'll talk about them for a short stint of time. But you got to beat some people for me to have a conversation about you. Last but not least, Rich Paul is at it again. Rich Paul is now saying that the LeBron James timetable is not a timetable at all. Rich Paul is telling you that LeBron's going to make a decision when he's ready. And no, this is not about attention. We're not out here doing this for attention. LeBron's going to make the decision when LeBron's ready to make the decision. Rich Paul, bro, can you do your podcast without talking about LeBron? Can you do an episode where you and Max Kellerman talk about something not LeBron related? Because every day there's a different Rich Paul story from someone else, from somewhere else. And I'm tired, bro. I'm tired. What up, Aztec? I'm tired, bro. I really am. I'm really tired of this. I'm really tired of this conversation. The man got you working, big dog. That's all right. Them checks come at the end of the day, Aztec. That's why we work, baby. That's why we work. But yeah, for people who just getting here, we talked about the Padres. We talked about their losing patterns. We talked about the chance that they may be trading Mason Miller. We talked about my inevitable Cowboy summer story. We got that out the way, so I never have to do that again. And now we're here. If you're getting here now, we're talking about Rich Paul. Rich Paul is on a tour that no one wants to hear the music. Rich Paul is playing a hit nobody wants to hear. Rich Paul is the song that comes on when you're in a grocery store and it's been played so many times, you just don't want to hear it no more. Wherever LeBron decides to go at this point in his career, this will be a 1, maybe 2-day story. And they have stretched this thing out. I think we're on the 3rd week of where's LeBron going. I think this marks the 3rd week, if I'm not This is the 3rd week of where is LeBron going to go? Because it's July 20th. July 1st was when the moratorium was lifted on free agency. So we're in our 3rd week of this shit. I'm tired of it, bro. It's decent for content if you do a national show. For a show like this, bro, just make a decision, fam. I would rather talk about you going to the Warriors, which I think is the best decision. I would talk about you going back to Cleveland, which, you know, it's kind of getting juicy because if they get LeBron, you can't get back James Harden, which that would be juicy content. But if you go to Miami, if LeBron goes to Miami, that's not a story, by the way. If LeBron goes back to Miami, he goes back with Pat Riley. LeBron and Giannis looks good on paper. I have no idea how you're going to execute that. This ain't Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and LeBron. This ain't Kevin Love, Kyrie, and LeBron. This ain't AD and LeBron. Giannis is not that versatile offensively. Sorry. And LeBron and Giannis, just stop talking about that. From a logistical standpoint, from putting this on the floor, right? Think about it like this. That's why Rich Paul got to chill with some of this shit. If you put this on the floor, if you put this on the court, Giannis is not a spot-up shooter. Giannis is not the screener in a pick-and-roll situation. He's the ball handler. LeBron's not a stand-in-the-corner, shoot threes guy, even at this point in his career. LeBron's not a stand-in-the-dunker spot. LeBron's not a screener. Like, when LeBron's got the ball, Bam Adebayo's on the court, Giannis is on the court. Any head coach with a week of NBA experience will just go, hey, man, pack the paint. There's no driving lanes. Rich Paul's got to chill, bro. There's not that many teams where this works. And if the weight is them trying to find ways that LeBron can get a couple more million, then then bro, just go to the team that's gonna pay you the most. Because I saw a report too that he's gonna play for the vet minimum. He shouldn't do that. We're talking about LeBron James, dog. And if we're talking about playing for the vet minimum, then that has Golden State written all over it. If we're talking about playing for the vet minimum, that has Golden State written all over it. Because Golden State's the only place where he can go where everybody's smart. Everybody in Golden State's a proven winner. Hell, Porzingis even got a championship and played a vital role in winning a championship. Golden State is the only place you can go where the IQ is A1 for everybody. You don't know that in Boston, regardless of how much the reports are that he loves Tyrese Maxey. You don't know that in Cleveland he does. James Harden, sorry, bro. Donovan Mitchell, sorry, bro. This LeBron ain't lifting that boat. And we already talked about what could happen in Miami. I think Denver's out of it unless he literally plays for pennies. There's a lot of teams out of it. By the way, Miami's out of it unless he literally plays for pennies. And I've seen reports where LeBron has publicly said that he's going to talk to his daughter about free agency because now she's 12, and that's awesome. He said, "Oh, Miami was about me. Going back to Cleveland was about me. Going to LA was about me. You know, she's 12, and how her life is now impacted by this decision, and that's awesome. I support that." But come on, dog. You got Rich Paul out here talking on your behalf every day is exhausting, dog. Just make a decision, man. Please. For all our sake, dog. We love you, Brian. You had a great career, dog. You really did. Brian really did. Brian lit it up. But you got to chill, dog. It's time. It's time. And whenever he does, by the way, whenever he does decide, and I'm not on the air, or I'm not set to come on the air in a couple of minutes, buddy, you got to understand, I will be doing a live podcast the second he decides. Thank you. Yes, I will. Breaking news. LeBron signs. I'm down. I'm in. I'm in, buddy. So, yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I'll see y'all tomorrow, man. As always, like, share, subscribe to the show. John Brown Podcast. See y'all tomorrow, man. Peace.